सकते हैं और अच्छा है अगर आपके सीनियर से हम शेयर कर सकते हैं कि कुरुक्षेत्र धाम आने के बाद ये ओवरऑल हम बात कर रहे हैं कि कुरुक्षेत्र आने धाम आने के बाद मैं एक स्टेप ये किया करूंगा
Hare Krishna, everyone. My humble obeisances, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Okay, so let's start with prayers to Bhagavatam. Sarva Shastrabdi Piyusha Sarva Vedika Satpala Sarva Siddhanta Ratnadya Sarva Loke Kadrik Prada Sarva Bhagavata Prana Srimad Bhagavata Prabho Kalidvantu Detaditya Shri Krishna Parivartita परमानंद पाठया प्रेम वर्षक्षरायते सर्वदा सर्वसेव्याया श्री कृष्णाय नमोस्तुते मदेक बंधो मत्संगिन मद्गुरो मन्महाधना मन्निष्ठार्क मद्भाग्या मद आनंद नमोस्तुते असाधु साधु तादायिन अति निचोचता करा हाना मुंच कदाचिन माम प्रेम न हृत कंठयो स्फुरा नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत् नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिकी ॐ ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम् यस्य प्रसादादक्योऽपि सत्यसर्वगतां व्रजेत् स श्रीचैतन्यदेवो मे भगवान् सम्प्रसीदतु वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च दानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय. So before we start, let's just pray to Srila Prabhupada and our spiritual masters so that our session today may be nourishing and growthful. Okay. So, did you get a chance to do the exercise we discussed yesterday? Did anybody get a chance to do that? I can see Anandita Leela Mataji nodding. So I guess some of you have done it. Okay, Rasaman Prabhu, good. So who wants to present first? Should the ladies go first? Okay, maybe the ladies can go first and we can discuss the lessons that we learned from this pastime, both subtle and gross.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So I'll present some of the points and let the others also speak. as we saw the last two chapters, about the exercise was about what lessons did we learn from this pastime. So I believe it was from the last two chapters, chapter 15 and 16, where this whole episode happened when the Kumaras went to the Vaikuntha, and then there is a description of how the Vaikuntha world is, what's the difference between that and the material world. Um, one significant lesson which we can see from reading those the chapters was in spiritual world everything is fully conscious, whether it's trees or it's animals or birds, and each other and each one of them they actually appreciate each one's service to Krishna, and there is no enviousness. And there in the description we also we saw that how everyone is glorifying the Lord, and chanting holy name is like the most it's like one of the main aspect in the Vaikuntha world. And the same thing in one of the purports, Prabhupada speaks about how to chant offenselessly, without offense, and he made that as an he brought that when he established Krishna consciousness, that why we should avoid those 10 offenses, because that forms the basis of our spiritual life, and if we don't practice it here, what are we going to do when we get there? So and a very evident example which we have been seeing in the last few sessions was when the four Kumars were asked not to step into the door of the Vaikuntha by the doorman, though it was like as we discussed yesterday, it was like by chance, or it never happened. Usually it was like something very not very often done, and even though they did an offense towards the Brahmanas, the four Kumaras, they had to come back to this material world, though even though that was not a planned or like it wasn't something which was really you can say intentionally done. Even slightest of that, Lord Vishnu had to come and do the conflict resolution, you can say. So even a slightest bit of that actually put them out of the material from this Vaikuntha world and put them into the material world. And what we can think of when many times we do intentionally many offense, so what could be the repercussions of those offense that we do? So one has to be very very careful, and Krishna says repeatedly that he values brahmanas and the cows the most. So and that's why he wanted to, in one of the verse where he says that I have the power to let go of this curse, but then I would it has my sanction, something, or I don't remember the exact translation what it was, but that was just that Krishna was like, okay, I sanction this, that you go back to the material world. So he wanted to show that if we do any offense towards the brahmanas or the cows, Krishna doesn't tolerate that. So, and if we wanted to serve him, then we have to first serve his devotees, and brahmanas and Vaishnavas are the highest of devotees of the Lord. I mean, I have other points also, but I would like others to speak because.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Who's speaking next? Priya Satyabhama.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare
So the whole episode gives us a very nice vision into the relationship that goes on between a devotee and the Lord. The devotee always wants to glorify the Lord, but this is after the Kumaras realize, and then they're glorifying the Lord, but the Lord is glorifying the devotees, and It's very, as you said yesterday, it's very sweet to listen to that conversation that Lord is saying that everything that I have is because of the devotee. Although Lord doesn't need anything from the devotee, He is fully satisfied, He has everything. But He still says that, and the devotee says, whatever we have it because of you. So that is very sweet to relish, and very, very sweet to listen to, and very sweet to understand and relish. On the same hand, the kind of sacrifice that the devotee, I mean, maybe I am using the wrong word here, but Jay and Vijay were ready to relinquish their position just to satisfy Krishna. He wanted to enjoy Virya. So they were more than happy to, relieve themselves from their comfortable position in Vaikuntha and go back to the material world to serve the Lord, so that the Lord can enjoy that Virya. So this shows that, a devotee, if a pure devotee, if he would understand the will of the Lord, then they would be more than happy to serve him in whatever the devotee can. So that kind of relationship between a devotee and the Lord is very beautiful to relish. So that was my take from the whole conversation
Thank
between
you.
the three parties. Thank you.
Lakshmi, Mahesh?
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Mataji, I want to share a few points according to my understanding. And first point was like that if the devotees sincerely desire to see the Lord, as the four sages were eager to see the Lord, so the Lord out of his mercy appeared in front of them. And the qualification to attract the Lord is just devotional service and desire to serve Lord and sincerity. And on the points, like, yes, on the sages side, when they see that the Lord has come to save or to save the devotees, like the doormen, so they realize that although they were offenders, but being Vaishnav, they shouldn't be so harsh on them, and they pray to the Lord that although they are going to in a hellish planet, but they must remember Supreme Lord all the time. They don't forget. And the same prayers were done by the Jay and Vijay also. And it was like Lord's plan and the devotees, and because the Lord wanted to relish the Veer Rasa. So that's it, Mataji.
Thank you so much. Very wonderful lessons. So I would like to add a couple of things. One is that to understand that the Lord is our only shelter. Even appropriate, even if sometimes there may be apparent misery, but still the Lord will protect. Even though, it for Jai Vijay, it seemed like they were cursed and, they were vanquished, but still there's protection of the Lord throughout. Like we discussed yesterday, that the Lord himself came every time to kill them. They had darshan of the Lord. That was their desire. That was the desire that let us not forget you. So at what time actually this forgetfulness is most dangerous? At the time of death. So we saw in case of Bhishma Pitama also that when he wanted to see the Lord, when he was dying, Krishna himself personally came and stood in front of him. So in case of Jai Vijay also, in every birth that they would take as demons, the Lord himself would be in front of them to kill them. So that, they will always have his remembrance. They didn't want to forget the Lord, and the Lord reciprocated. So, even if sometimes it may seem like an apparent, misery or apparent suffering, but if we are devoted, if we have taken shelter of the Lord, he will protect. So that faith one must have. And also, like I think Priya Satyabhama mentioned, that Jai Vijay were ready to go with the plan. And if we saw even Kumaras were ready to just accept whatever the Lord, gave them. So a devotee is always ready, or should be always ready to accept the plan of the Lord. We should not try to add our own chapter in that plan. we should actually train our consciousness in such a way that whatever the Lord is doing, He's my ultimate well-wisher. So whatever He does is for my benefit. So might as well accept happily and depending on the Lord. So that's a lesson. And we can see that they were willing to go to hell, hellish conditions. So that's the mood of a devotee, that, for serving the Lord, for His desire, for His plan, I'm ready to undergo anything. So, and also, if there is that intense desire to see the Lord or to serve the Lord, that is actually the driving force for everything, that intense desire. Everything comes from that. And that intense desire can be cultivated through the association, hearing from, advanced devotees in their association. So that is a way to cultivate that intense desire. And intense desire actually is a qualification that makes Krishna appear. If one has intense desire, Krishna will appear. So these are some of the things that I also wanted to share. Rukmini Harisevni, you wanted to say something?
Mataji, am I audible?
Yes, very much. Go ahead.
Okay. Mataji, I will just say one or 2 points that Mataji, Jay and Vijay, they were like, I cannot think about myself, of course not, but about Jay and Vijay, they were like the devotees, so Krishna's associate, that they can go at any extent to please the Lord. No one can even think to fight with the Lord in the higher planets. Who is the enemy of Krishna? So when Lord desires that he want that fighting spirit with someone, so to please Krishna, they took this, this actually, as you said, and everybody is saying that it was really a Krishna's plan. He wanted to fight, so they got agreed on. Yes, they were very much ready to execute any plan of Krishna. And yes, and then this was all planned. And as we also say that in our lives also, that whatever happens, it happens because of Lord's wish, and it is like it's happening because Krishna wants to take me back to home, back to he loves me so very much. Even I do not love him, but he always plans the life of a devotee. Like one step, he always wants that after this step, I would come nearer to him. So this is just like the Shastra Chakshu we read, and Guru Sadhu Shastra, the guidance of these three we can have, but this is the thing. And second thing, four Kumaras, about four Kumaras. Just one point, like which I understood, Mataji. Sorry, my network was not good, so I was not able to hear the lecture sessions. I was not able to attend the session attentively yesterday. So, but I could understand, Mataji, four Kumaras are like when every devotee of Lord, if they make any mistake, of course they also did, because it was like Krishna's planning. So they did like this, but when they do something wrong, they repent. And they repent. So for repentance part, I could get from them. And now come to Krishna. He is so very much merciful that he doesn't know anything. He just knows his devotee, and his devotees doesn't know anything. They just know, they just want to please Krishna. They do not know anything. So this is the cute, sweet relationship, reciprocation, love exchange, affection, care, everything between Lords and Lord's devotees. This is what just I wanted to say, Mataji. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the session.
Thank you. Nice point, very nice point, that devotee, that's the difference between a demon and a devotee. When a devotee makes mistake, he immediately realizes that I made a mistake, I have offended someone. They immediately go and ask for forgiveness, that I shouldn't have behaved in this manner, but a demon does not. So that's the difference between a devotee and a demon. So we can see where we are. We can place ourselves that when I offend somebody, do I go and ask for forgiveness right away? Or do I, just because of my false ego, I keep postponing it. So that's also a lesson. Thank you. Okay, so Prabhus, anybody wants to share? Yes, Andrea Prabhu, please.
I would like to share the screen. I'm not sure if I have the authority or not, but Let me try. Is that visible?
Yes.
So this is what I thought that the exemplary behavior we were supposed to discuss, and I pointed out a couple of them. So for Jay and Vijay, the point that I liked was that as soon as they saw that the four Kumaras were angry, they immediately fell down at the feet. We generally, keep defending ourselves, or we sometimes become angry that, why are you being angry? We are just doing our duty. So immediately humility they showed, and they did not defend themselves. Second point, which I thought was exemplary, is that they said that, all right, we have been punished, now it is apt. So they justified. Instead of we, generally we do, that's what Maharaj says, tit for tat. So we are not supposed to do tit for tat. So there was no cursing and counter cursing as we saw in the, Daksha's Yagya. So they were again show the humility part, and they said that, it is apt. They said, all right, we have been punished. It's good. It's all right. And then after all that, they finally said that, all right, whatever it is, but the prayer was not of their comfort or anything like that. The prayer was that, they should never forget the Lord. That's what, the exemplary behavior for Jan Vijay. For the Lord, he came on the feet instead of Garuda, so he never, waited. He was so anxious that, there is something going on between his devotees. So immediately he came on the feet. And then he took the blame on himself. He said that actually, it is the disrespect is actually shown by me. So that's how he loves his devotees. And he said that, it is an offense by myself, which was, not required, but that's how he behaves. That, similarly, if we are doing some service, we are some servant leader, and some of my Asha member, do something, then I would, generally pass the blame. What can I do? That member is a new fight. He has done this, he has done that. I don't know. Why doesn't he understand? But learn the behavior from the Lord, that, take it on himself, and, understand that it is done by me. And so much so that, the Lord said that, I would not hesitate to lop off my arm, if the conduct is found hostile to you. So much respect to Brahmanas, so much respect to his devotees, so much love and care for his devotees. And the last point is that, he's saying that, my feet has become scared because I am the servitor of my devotees. He's the supreme, but still he's saying that, he's the servitor of his devotees. And about the four Kumaras, they are saying that, if any punishment you want to give to them, you decide. So they are taking a back seat, and they're saying to the Lord, if you want, it is up to you. You want to decide any punishment, we are okay with whatever you say. So immediately they surrender. And then they are saying, they started with that, these persons are not okay, to declaring that, these 2% are innocent people. So they have changed their heart. And further, they are saying that whatever punishment, so they are ready to accept that maybe, we have done a wrong thing, and, the Lord is very close to his devotees. So whatever punishment the Lord will award us, we are ready to accept. And then ultimately they're saying that, we are at fault actually. We have cursed these two faultless persons. So they are saying that, these are not faultless, they are faultless people, and it is we who have done this. So this is what I thought, Mataji.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Rasaman Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Yes, Mataji. Most of the points Antaryami Balram Prabhu has already covered, but still I would like to share what my understanding would be. From the Lord's perspective, what I could gather, the greatest point is God is extremely loving and caring for Brahmanas and the cows. Like we every day chant the mantra, Namo Brahmanaya, Go Brahmanitaya Cha, Jagatitaya Krishnaya, Govindaya Namo Namaha. So God is very much caring for the Brahmanas and cows, and he is not at all ready to accept anything against them. So when he came to know about Jay and Vijay, that they had committed offense unto the lotus feet of Kumaras, then he became really very angry, and he was ready to punish them, and at the behest of the Kumaras. So from the Lord's perspective, this was the greatest point which we could gather in yesterday's session. And he has been also called as the reservoir of all the pleasure. God is always the reservoir of all the pleasure. Then if we move to Kumaras, then from Kumara's perspective, we see as soon as they entered the Vaikuntha, not entered exactly, when they reached the doorstep of the Vaikuntha, they were quite happy on reaching the Vaikuntha doorstep. So from this we learn that devotees mentality, when they reach a particular stage in their devotional life, devotional career, or in simple life, in routine life, when we reach temple, when we see some pure devotees, or when we take darshan of the Lord, or sannyasis, we really get ecstasy, we really get happy from the core of our heart. If we are not envious of them, then definitely. So Kumaras became very happy on reaching Vaikuntha, and they were very much open-minded also. But they were very hurt when they saw the dual mentality of Jay and Vijay. And they called them as contaminated because of their dual mentality. They were surprised, how could they be contaminated here in Vaikuntha because of their dual mentality. At least dual mentality, ours, theirs, mine, your, they should not be at least in Vaikuntha. So they were quite surprised to see that in Jay and Vijay. And on the part of Jay and Vijay, we see they were eternal servants of the Lord, of course, and they were quite dutiful. Whatever they did as the part of their sacred duty. But as Kumaras found them, they were quite envious, and they could not recognize the Brahmanas, devotees. So this was the fallacy on the part of Jay and Vijay. They should not have been present in them. Of course, they were eternal servants of the Lord, but at least they should not have been contaminated. They should have at least the mentality to understand, to recognize the devotees, who the real devotees are and who are not. So this was all, Mataji, I could understand from yesterday's session, understanding. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So, yeah, so it's very interesting, because yesterday when we saw all those things that the Lord says about the Brahmanas and how he gets his potency comes from the dust of Brahmanas' lotus feet. And he was ready to lop off his arm. So this was actually when the Lord starts speaking like this, then Kumara start realizing how dear Jai Vijay are to him. They start realizing that, first of all, he's come running barefoot, so they start to realize that these people are very close to the Lord. We were impersonalists, we have just become bhaktas, but these people have been serving the Lord for a long time as his, doorkeepers. There is a personal relationship there already for a long time. So that's when they start understanding that maybe we overstepped our boundaries. Our punishment was way too harsh. It wasn't really required. So these are some of the things that to actually, sometimes we react in certain ways in certain situations. So it's nice to just take a step back and see if that kind of reaction was really required. Sometimes we just overdo things. So it's a good lesson to learn from this past time, that take a step back, see whether that kind of reaction is really required, and then accordingly, choose a course. If the reaction is too harsh, then one can always go back and ask for forgiveness. And in spiritual life, that's a very important lesson we have to learn, that if we have offended somebody, we should immediately ask for forgiveness. We should not wait. If we are not envious of ourselves, if we want our own, benefit, then as soon as we offend somebody, we should ask for forgiveness. When we don't ask for forgiveness and we, keep postponing it, that's actually a sign of self-envy. That, we are our own worst enemies if we let it, just let it linger on. So these are some of the lessons that this particular pastime has. And I would encourage you people as we go along, then, just keep writing lessons from whatever pastime we do, whatever section we do. For your own personal application, you can keep writing the lessons. And it's very helpful because then you can go back and see what all we need to learn, what all we need to work on. And that's a good way of studying Bhagavatam, that drawing lessons from each and every episode, each and every pastime. Okay, thank you very much. I didn't really expect anybody to participate today. I'm very pleasantly surprised. So let's start with chapter 17. Victory of Hiranyaksha over all directions of the universe. Now these three chapters, 17, 18, and 19, are basically pastime. This is narration of pastime. And you'll see that Prabhupada has given either very short purports or no purport at all. So I'm expecting that we should be able to cover quite a bit of it today. So let's start.
Chapter 17, a victory of Hiranyaksha over all the directions of the universe. Sri Maitreya said, the demigods, the inhabitants of the higher planets, were freed from all fear upon hearing the cause of the darkness explained by Brahma, who was born from Vishnu. Thus, they all returned to their respective planets.
Okay, so Prabhupada in the purport, he says, it's in the middle, the difference between the demigods and ordinary human beings is that the demigods approach authority, whereas the inhabitants of earth defy authority. So this is a very, very strong statement that whenever there is an issue, whenever we are feeling fear, whenever we are confused, what is the best way? Approach somebody who can actually help us, approach an authority. So Prabhupada continues, if people would only approach the authority, then every adverse condition in this universe can be rectified. Then he gives the example of Arjuna, Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, was confused, bewildered, but when he approached the authority, Krishna, his problem was solved. So the conclusive instruction of this incident is that we may be disturbed by some material condition, but if we approach the authority who can actually explain the matter, then our problem is solved. So this is something which is very important, because in Kali Yuga, the first thing that happens is we lose faith in authority. That's how Maya strikes in Kali Yuga, making you lose faith in authority. So that is something that we should understand, that if there is no faith, if we don't approach anybody, then we will not be able to really resolve our problems. And those problems are going to continue, and it would become very difficult for us to progress. So to maintain that faith in the authority is an austerity, is something that we need to work on. To actually, pray every day that whoever my authority is, Krishna, my guru, keep my faith in my guru intact. Please protect my faith. And Krishna knows like who's, and you can also pray like that who's for my benefit. Please keep my faith in that person intact. So that's a good prayer, because in Kali Yuga, it's a very difficult age. And what will happen is that it's very easy to lose faith in the authority figure. And we can see here, Prabhupada is saying that if we have any issue, if we approach the spiritual authority who can help us, then that fear can be easily countered. So, and also one good person to approach when we are fearful is who? There is Lord's incarnation who specifically says this.
Nothing there.
Lord Ram. He says that if somebody comes and takes shelter of me and says, oh Lord, from today I'm yours, I make that person fearless. That's his vow. So we can even pray to Lord Ram that, I'm experiencing so much fear. Please give me shelter at your lotus feet, and please make me fearless. Okay, 2.
Text 2. The virtuous lady Diti had been very apprehensive of trouble to the gods from the children in her womb, and her husband predicted the same. She brought forth twin sons after a full 100 years of pregnancy.
So we can say here the word used for Diti is virtuous lady. 2 chapters prior to this, we thought of her as a lusty woman who had no self-control, right? And here we can see that she's being referred to as a virtuous lady. So this is also a lesson to be learned, that sometimes we may see some people do certain things and make some kind of judgment about them, that this is how this person is. But actually, that may just be a flickering thing. It may just be for a little bit that they're acting inappropriately, but actually they have a virtuous character. So not to so quickly jump. We have this tendency of very quickly judging people, very quickly putting them in different compartments. This person is bad, this person is a little better, like that. We have so much compartments. So when we learn from this that she is a virtuous lady to help the demigod, she carried those two in her womb for 100 years, so that all the suffering can be postponed. The suffering to the world can be postponed, to this universe can be postponed. So that's also another lesson, not to be so quick to judge. Just, step back, see everything objectively before coming to any conclusion. Next, 3.
On the earth of 2 demons, there were many natural disturbances. All very fearful and wonderful in the heavenly planets, the earthly planets, and in between them.
4.
Text 4. There were earthquakes along the mountains on the earth, and it appeared that there was fire everywhere. Many inauspicious planets like Saturn appeared, along with comets, meteors, and thunderbolts.
Yeah, so Prabhupada gives a very nice purport. He says, when natural disturbances occur on a planet, one should understand that a demon must have taken birth there. In the present age, the number of demoniac people is increasing. Therefore, natural disturbances are also increasing. There is no doubt about this, as we can understand from the statements of the Bhagavatam. So we can see when there are natural disasters, then we should understand it is all because of all the sinful reactions. It is because of the demoniac personalities appearing. So many natural disasters are happening. Text 5.
5. There blew winds which were most uninviting to the touch, hissing again and again and uprooting gigantic trees. They had storms for their armies and clouds of dust for their ensigns.
Yeah, so Prabhupada says the same thing again, that when these kind of things happen, we should understand that demoniac population is increasing. And then he says that there are many countries on the globe, even at the present moment, where all these disturbances are current. This is true all over the world. There is insufficient sunshine and there are always clouds in the sky. So most likely Prabhupada was in England when he was talking about this, because England is known for this. Snowfall and severe cold. And once Prabhupada was interviewed and in England, and they asked him to describe the hellish planets. That Prabhupada, what does hell look like? Prabhupada said, like London, because there's no sunshine, it's always cloudy and rainy. So this is what hell looks like. So then Prabhupada, so we can see that he's referring to similar thing, that there is insufficient sunshine, there are always clouds in the sky, snowfall and severe cold. These assure that such places are inhabited by demoniac people who are accustomed to all kinds of forbidden sinful activity. So this is what hell is. So we encounter hell everywhere in Kali Yuga. Too much water, too much drought, too much sunshine, too little sunshine. So, okay, 6.
The luminaries in the heavens were screened by masses of clouds, in which lightning sometimes flashed as though laughing. Darkness reigned everywhere and nothing could be seen.
Yeah, so everything has become dark, nothing could be seen. Next.
The ocean with its high waves wailed aloud as if stricken with sorrow, and there was a commotion among the creatures inhabiting the ocean. The rivers and lakes were also agitated, and the lotuses withered.
Next.
Misty halos appeared around the sun and the moon during solar and lunar eclipses again and again. Claps of thunder were heard even without clouds, and sound like those of rattling chariots emerged from the mountain caves.
Yeah, so here it is being referred that eclipses occurring is also sign of sinful reactions, sign of demoniac personalities. Again and again, if the eclipses keep coming. So we see that we are now getting more and more eclipses as the time is passing. More and more eclipses every year. So we can understand that the sinful reactions of people are increasing. 9.
In the interior of the villages, she-jackals yelled portentously, vomiting strong fire from their mouths, and jackals and owls also joined them with their cries.
Next.
Raising their necks, dogs cried here and there, now in the manner of singing and now of wailing.
Next.
O Vidura, the asses ran hither and thither in herds, striking the earth with their hard hoofs and widely braying.
So Prabhupada gives a very short purport. He says, asses also feel very respectable as a race. When things go wrong, then asses actually think that they are very great. And when they run in flocks hither and thither in so-called jollity, it is understood to be a bad sign for human society. If asses are jolly, that shows that something is not right. Next, 12.
Frightened by the braying of the asses, birds flew shrieking from their nests, while cattle in the cowsheds, as well as in the woods, passed dung and urine.
Next, continue.
Cows, terrified, yielded blood in place of milk. Clouds rained pus. The images of the gods in the temples shed tears, and trees fell down without a blast of wind.
Next.
Ominous planets such as Mars and Saturn shone brighter and surpassed the auspicious ones such as Mercury, Jupiter, and Venus, as well as the number of lunar mansions. Taking seemingly retrograde courses, the planet came in conflict with one another.
So Prabhupada, in the purport, he talks about the entire universe is moving under the 3 modes of material nature. Those living entities who are in goodness are called pious species, pious lands, pious trees, etc. It is similar with the planets also. Many planets are considered pious, others are considered impious. Saturn and Mars are considered impious. When the pious planets shine very brightly, it is an auspicious sign. But when the inauspicious planets shine very brightly, this is not a very good sign. So we can see that everything, now that these 2 personalities are going to appear, every sign is inauspicious. Everything is, indicating that something inauspicious is going to happen. Next.
Marking these and many other omens of evil times, everyone but the 4 sage sons of Brahma, who were aware of the fall of Jaya and Vijaya and of their birth as Diti's sons, was seized with fear. They did not know the secrets of these portents and thought that the dissolution of the universe was at hand.
Yeah, so everyone became fearful because these signs were so strong and all of them happening at the same time. So they became very fearful. So Prabhupada says in the second para of this purport, to check the increase of demoniac population, but this is happening because 2 demons are going to be born. So he says, to check the increase of demoniac population, the Vedic civilization enacted so many rules and regulations of social life, the most important of which is the Garbhadhan process for begetting good children. In Bhagavad Gita, Arjun informed Krishna that if there is unwanted population, Varna Sankar, the entire world will appear to be hell. People are very anxious for peace in the world, but there are so many unwanted children born without the benefit of the Garbhadhan ceremony, just like the demons born from Diti. Diti was so lusty that she forced her husband to copulate at a time which was inauspicious, and therefore the demons were born to create disturbances. Then he says further on, if we do not follow regulations in life for social tranquility, we cannot expect peace. That if we have not followed the rules and regulations, then how can we expect the result to be peaceful? So it's something to really think about. Rather, we'll have to undergo the stringent reactions of natural laws. Next, 16.
These two demons who appeared in ancient times soon began to exhibit uncommon bodily features. They had steel-like frames which began to grow just like two great mountains.
Yeah, so in the purport, Prabhupada says that the two demons born of Diti began to make their bodies as strong as iron frames, and they were so tall that they seemed to touch the outer space. They were decorated with valuable ornaments, and they thought this was success in life. Originally, it was planned that Jay and Vijay, the two doorkeepers of Vaikuntha, were to take birth in this material world, where by the curse of the sages, they were to play the part of always being angry with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As demoniac persons, they became so angry that they were not concerned with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but simply with physical comforts and physical upliftment. So then Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, while commenting on this text, provides a very nice insight. He says that even though they were cursed, even though they were demoted, these devotees were still superior. How? This verse shows that they didn't even have a trace of hellish suffering. They were enjoying. They had physical comforts. They had physical upliftment. And if one had performed any hellish act, there was no question of enjoyment. But even though these people were cursed, they appeared as demons, they were still enjoying. There was no suffering. So this just shows the power of a pure devotee, that even if they come to this material world for whatever reason, being cursed or whatever reason, they don't suffer like an ordinary human being. They don't have to go through that suffering. 17.
Their bodies became so tall that they seemed to kiss the sky with the crests of their gold crowns. They blocked the view of all directions, and while walking shook the earth at every step. Their arms were adorned with brilliant bracelets, and they stood as if covering the sun with their waists, which were bound with excellent and beautiful girdles.
Next, 18.
Prajapati Kashyap, the creator of the living entities, gave his twin sons their names. The one who was born first, he named Hiranyaksh, and the one who was first conceived by Diti, he named Hiranyakashipu.
So Prabhupada explains in the purport, the child conceived first is born later. When the twins are born, then the first one to come out is actually conceived later. So that twin is considered to be younger. And the one who comes later is the one which was conceived earlier. So that twin is considered to be older. So normally we actually calculate the other way. The first one to come out is who we call older, and the second one to come out is who we call younger. But if Prabhupada gives a calculation, the child conceived first is born later, and one conceived later is brought forth first. The first child conceived in the womb lives behind the second child. So when birth takes place, the second child appears first and the first child appears second. In this case, it is understood that Hiranyaksha, the second child conceived, was delivered first, whereas Hiranyakashipu, the child who was behind him, having been conceived first, was born second. So Prabhupada explains how to actually determine that when twins are born, who's older and who's younger. Text 19.
The elder child Hiranyakashipu was unafraid of death from anyone within the three worlds because he received a benediction from Lord Brahma. He was proud and puffed up due to this benediction and was able to bring all three planetary systems under his control.
So, which canto are we going to read about Hiranyakashipu? Does anybody know?
7, Mataji.
Yes,
Seven.
seventh canto.
7.
Seventh canto has the entire pastime of Prahlad, Nrsingadev, and Hiranyakashipu. And so here it's being mentioned that the elder child Hiranyakashipu was unafraid of death from anyone within the three worlds because he received a benediction from Lord Brahma. So how could Lord Brahma give that kind of benediction? So we have to realize that the power of this power of Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, their ability to give benediction is actually coming from the Lord. It is coming because they are devotees of the Lord. It is nothing but an extension of Lord's power. So we have to understand that by on their own, they are not powerful. They are powerful because of their connection with the Lord. And in the purport towards the end, Prabhupada says, one may become as strong and puffed up as Hiranyakashipu and bring under his control all the three worlds. But there is no possibility of continuing life eternally or keeping the conquered booty forever. So many emperors have ascended to power and they are now lost in oblivion. And that is the history of the world. So sometimes when we read about, especially when you read 9th canto, there is like, description of one dynasty after another, after another, after another. And one may get bewildered that why do we really need to read, about all these kings? So the Acharyas explained that the reason they are mentioned in Bhagavatam is that when we read about these kings, we can understand that these people were so powerful. They were so, they had so much opulence. They had so much power. But where are they now? Nowhere. Most of them we have not even heard of. So and it teaches a lesson in detachment. And it also teaches a lesson that we are so unnecessarily proud of little thing that we have. And, we think we are something. And look at these kings. When the time passes, these kings have, disappeared and nobody even talks about them. Nobody even knows them. So there is no reason for us to be proud of our achievements or, our opulences. And actually get a lesson in detachment, that we should be detached. We should understand that all that, is coming to me right now is temporary. It's going to go away. This is not something that is going to stay with me. Next, text 20.
His younger brother Hiranyaksh was always ready to satisfy his elder brother by his activities. Hiranyaksh took a club on his shoulder and traveled all over the universe with a fighting spirit just to satisfy Hiranyakashipu.
Yeah. So Prabhupada in the last line of his purport says, he wanted to rule the world eternally. And these are the demonstrations of the spirit of the demoniac living entity. They have no consideration that we are not going to be here forever. They think they are going to be here for forever. And they're going to be ruling permanently. So we can see there's this difference in mentality. A devotee understands that I'm here. And whatever is coming to me is by Krishna's grace. And whenever Krishna wants, he can take it away. But a demon thinks that this is my possession and it is going to be with me permanently and I have to take care of it and I'm going to protect it. So that's the difference between a demon and a devotee. 21.
Hiranyaksh's temper was difficult to control. He had anklets of gold tinkling about his feet. He was adorned with a gigantic garland, and he rested his huge mace on one of his shoulders.
Next.
His mental and bodily strength, as well as the boon conferred upon him made him proud. He feared death at the hands of no one, and there was no checking him. The gods therefore were seized with fear at his very sight, and they hid themselves, even as snakes hide themselves for fear of Garuda.
So we can see that the demigods are very, very fearful because these two personalities are no ordinary personalities. They are pure devotees. They are eternal associates of the Lord. So with that, when they come as demons, they come as ferocious demons, not like some regular demons. So even the demigods cannot stand in front of them. They are so powerful. And I did some research on this boon that Hiranyaksha received. So our acharyas don't really mention it, but in some Puranic literature, I found a reference that Hiranyaksha, like his brother Hiranyakashipu, also did terrible austerities to please Lord Brahma. And when Lord Brahma appeared, he asked for the boon of immortality like his brother would. But Lord Brahma refused. He said, I'm myself not immortal. How can I give you the boon of immortality? So then he said, okay, so I should not get killed by humans and animals. And he gave a list of animals that these are the animals I should not be killed by. And boar was not among one of those. You know, so he thought he was so intelligent, you know. I have all my bases covered. I have asked for this boon that no human should be able to kill me, and these ferocious animals should not be able to kill me. Who really thinks that boar is ferocious and that I could get killed by a boar? So he did not really include boar in the list. And then the Lord appeared as a boar and killed him. So he fulfilled Brahma's boon. And he also appeared to show that he's Swarat. He's not limited. He can appear in any way, any form. Nothing is really too difficult or fantastic for him. Okay, let's go on. 23.
On not finding Indra and the other demigods who had previously been intoxicated with power, the chief of Daityas, seeing that they had all vanished before his might, roared loudly.
Okay. So if a demoniac person, who has so much power, what does he want? He just wants to fight and defeat people. And now he sees that everybody is running away. So his desire is not getting fulfilled. So we'll read this in the 10th canto also, that Kansa did similar things. Kansa from time to time would go and, challenge different asuras. So all these asuras who later came to, kill Krishna were actually asuras who were powerful in their own right. And Kansa would go and fight with them, and he would defeat them and make them his servant. And this is how they all came in his service. This is how they all became his associates. Kansa first went and defeated them all. So we can see that that's how demons think, that if I have a power, if I have some power, I need to exhibit that power, that, I need to show to people that I have that power. So we'll see that Hiranyaksha also, now he's wanting a fight, but nobody is willing to fight him. 24.
After returning from the heavenly kingdom, the mighty demon, who was like an elephant in wrath, for the sake of sport, dived into the deep ocean, which was roaring terribly.
Yeah, so now he's angry and he's thinking, okay, nobody on the earth is giving me a fight. Let me see if I can get somebody in the ocean. And he jumps in. Okay.
On his entering the ocean, the aquatic animals who formed the host of Varuna were stricken with fear and ran far away. Thus, Hiranyaksha showed his splendor without dealing a blow.
Yeah. Next.
Moving about in the ocean for many, many years, the mighty Hiranyaksha smote the gigantic wind-tossed waves again and again with his iron mace and reached Vibhavari, the capital of Varun.
Yeah, so he looked around. He's roaming here and there, looking for somebody powerful to fight with and defeat. Next, 27.
Vaibhava is the home of Varuna, lord of aquatic creatures and guardian of the lower regions of the universe, where the demons generally reside. The Hiranyaksha fell at Varuna's feet like a governed man, and to make fun of him, he said with a smile, "Give me battle, O Supreme."
That's where you see the demoniac mentality. He wants a fight so badly that he's, making fun of him, that give me a battle, O Supreme Lord, knowing that he's not the Supreme Lord, but he's just making fun of him. Okay. 28.
You are the guardian of an entire sphere and a ruler of wide fame. Having crushed the might of arrogant and conceited warriors and having conquered all the Daityas and Danavas in the world, you once performed a Rajsuya sacrifice to the Lord.
Next.
Thus mocked by an enemy whose vanity knew no bounds, the worshipful lord of the waters waxed angry, but by dint of his reason he managed to curb the anger that had sprung up in him. And he replied, "O dear one, we have now desisted from warfare, having grown too old for combat."
Yeah, so Varuna says that, I'm too old. So I'm not indulging in fighting anymore. So even though it angered him, he realized that there's no point getting angry in front of a demon. So it's better to, use reason and deflect this. This person is wanting a fight. Let me just deflect him. Next.
You are so skilled in war that I do not see anyone else but the most ancient person, Lord Vishnu, who can give satisfaction in battle to you. Therefore, O chief of the Asuras, approach him, whom even heroes like you mention with praise.
Yeah, so because Varuna realized that only Vishnu can really take care of this demon. He's the only one who can protect us. So he deflects him towards Vishnu that, what, just go. He is the one who can really give you a good fight. So next.
Varuna continued, on reaching him, you will be rid of your pride at once and will lie down on the field of battle, surrounded by dogs for eternal sleep. It is in order to exterminate wicked fellows like you and to show his grace to the virtuous that he assumes his various incarnations like Varaha.
Yeah, so we can see that the demons, he's clearly stating that, he is going to kill you. And he has appeared as a boar. But a demon, because of their mentality, cannot really understand because he's so proud that he cannot see reason. He's telling him that he will rid you of your pride immediately. And he has taken an incarnation as Vara, as a boar. And your boon does not protect you from a boar. So, somebody with little intelligence would have understood that maybe I should really think before I do this. But a demon completely intoxicated with power cannot see reason. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 3rd canto, 17th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Victory of Hiranyaksha over all the directions of the universe. Anybody has any comment or question in this section before we proceed to chapter 18? All this was very nice, easy. It was just Leela. Okay, let's go to chapter 18. The battle between Lord Boar and the demon Hiranyaksha. Yeah, please read.
Verse first, Maitre continued, the proud and falsely glorious Daitya had paid little heed to the words of Varuna. O dear Vidur, he learned from the Narad the whereabouts of the Supreme Personality of Godheads and hurriedly betook himself to the depth of the ocean.
Yeah. So Prabhupada says in his purport that since demoniac persons are less intelligent, they dare to fight with Vishnu, who's known as Ajita, or one who has never been conquered. So Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur comments on this, that when Hiranyaksha was looking for Lord Vishnu, he didn't know where he was. So he saw Narad and he asked Narad, where is this Lord Vishnu? So Narada knew that the Lord has taken this form as Vara and he has gone to Garbhodakoshan. So he directs him that go to Garbhodakoshan. That's where you'll find Lord Vishnu in the form of a Vara. So that's how Hiranyaksha knew where to go. Text 2.
He saw there are all powerful personality of Godhead in his boar incarnation, bearing the earth upward on the ends of his tusks, and robbing him of his splendor with his reddish eyes. The demon laughed, "Oh, an amphibious beast!"
So imagine, he's laughing at the Lord and calling him an amphibious beast. So, and now next few verses, we'll see how the Lord really, how Lord really reacts to this. In the purport, Prabhupada says that they misunderstood the body of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even in his human form, and they derived his descent. He's talking about the demons who, when, Krishna appears, even in the human form, they don't really accept him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the Chaitanya Sampradaya, there is sometimes a demoniac misconception about the descent of Nityananda Prabhu. Nityananda Prabhu's body is spiritual, but demoniac persons consider the body of the Supreme Personality to be material, just like ours. Avajananti Mamurha. Persons who have no intelligence deride the transcendental form of the Lord as material. So Hiranyaksha saw this form of Vara and did not really think that this was the Supreme Lord. This is a transcendental personality. He's seeing him as an ordinary person whom he can defeat. Next, text 3.
The demon addressed the Lord, O best of the demigods, dressed in the form of a boar, just hear me. This earth is entrusted to us, the inhabitants of the lower regions, and you cannot take it from my presence and not be hurt by me.
So if somebody can read this whole purport as well, some very interesting purport.
Sure. You rascal, you have been nourished by our enemies to
Sorry,
kill us.
no, just somebody read the purport
Of third?
of third. Yeah.
Okay. Sridhara Swami, commenting on this verse, state that although the demon wanted to deride the personality of Godhead in the form of a bull, actually he worshipped him in several words. For example, he addressed him as Vana Gochara, which means one who is a resident of the forest. But another meaning of Vana Gochara is one who lies on the water. Vishnu lies on the water, so the Supreme Personality of Godhead can be probably addressed in this way. The demon also address him as Margaha, indicating unintentionally the Supreme Personality is sought after by great sages, saintly person, and transcendentalists. He also addressed him as a Ajana. Sridhara Swami says that Jana means knowledge, and there is no knowledge which is unknown to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Indirectly, therefore, the demon said that Vishnu knows everything. The demon addressed him as Surdhama. Sura means Sura means the demigod, and Adhama means the Lord of all there is. He is Lord of all the demigods, therefore he is the best of all demigods, or God. When the demon used the phrase in my presence, the implied meaning was the spite of my presence. You are completely able to take away the earth. Na swasti yashashi. Unless you kindly take this earth from our custody, there can be no good fortune for us.
So we can see that the acharyas actually take out various meanings of what is being said, and they completely see the things in different light. And it is Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments that this shows that Hiranyaksha is a devotee at heart. You know, when he's saying these things, actually he's saying things which can be interpreted as almost like a stuti. Like, he's saying all these kind of things to the Supreme Lord. So outwardly, it looks like very rude, mean words, but inwardly, this is nothing but a glorification of the Lord. And it is also said that one Gochara, which Sridhar Swami explains as the resident of the forest, so is indirectly referring to who? Who's one Gochara? Krishna. It is referring to Krishna. So, he's actually outwardly saying it to mean Vara, that you are a wild animal, you are a resident of the forest, but inwardly it also means Krishna, who's going to perform his pastimes in the forest of Vrindavan. Next.
You rascal, you have been nourished by our enemies to kill us, and you have killed some demons by remaining invisible. Oh fool, your power is only mystic. So today I shall enliven my kinsmen by killing you.
So in this purport also, Prabhupada quotes Sridhar Swami and how he interprets this text. So maybe someone can read this purport as well.
The demon used the word abhyavaya, which means for killing. Sridhar Swami comments that this killing means liberating, or in other words, killing the process of continued birth and death. The Lord kills the process of birth and death and keeps himself invisible. The activities of the Lord's internal potency are inconceivable, but by a slight exhibition of this potency, the Lord, by his grace, can deliver one from nations. Shuchaha means miseries. The miseries of material existence can be extinguished by the Lord by his potential energy of internal Yogmaya. In the Upanishad, Shvetashtar Upanishad 6.8, it is stated, Rashya Shaktir Vividhava Shruyate. The Lord is invisible to the eyes of the common man, but his energies act in various ways. When demons are in adversity, they think that God is hiding himself and is working by his mystic potency. They think that if they can find God, they can kill him just by seeing him. Hiranyaksha thought that way and he challenged the Lord. You have done tremendous harm to our community, taking the part of the demigods, and you have killed our kinsman in so many ways, always keeping yourself hidden. Now I see you face to face, and I'm going to let you go. I shall kill you and save my kinsman from your mystic misdeeds. Not only are demons always anxious to kill God with words and philosophy, but they think that if one is materially powerful, he can kill God with materially fatal weapons. Demons like Kansa, Ravana, and Hiranyakashipu thought themselves powerful enough to kill even God. Demons cannot understand that God, by his multifarious potencies, can work so wonderfully that he can be present everywhere and still remain in his eternal abode, Golok Vrindavan.
Thank you, Prabhu. So we can see that outwardly, Hiranyaksha is actually blaspheming the Lord. But Srita Swami says that inwardly he's actually praising by his words. Next, text 5.
The demon continued, when you fall dead with your skull smashed by the mace hurled by my arms, the demigods and sages who offer you oblations and sacrifice in devotional service will also automatically cease to exist, like trees without roots.
So Prabhupada says in his purport that demons are very much disturbed when devotees worship the Lord in the prescribed ways recommended in the scriptures. So we'll see in the 4th canto also, when Vena comes into power, the first thing he does is to stop the sacrifices. He does not want the brahmanas or devotees to indulge in sacrifices or any kind of worship of the Lord. So this is the example of a demoniac mentality. And in the middle of this purport, Prabhupada says that the demon Hiranyaksha, upon seeing the Lord face to face, wanted to make a permanent solution by killing the personality of Godhead with his powerful mace. The example of an uprooted tree mentioned here by the demon is very significant because devotees accept that God is the root of everything. So there's this verse in the 4th canto, Yathataror Mula Nishechanina, which means that the Lord is like the root. If you water the root, then the whole tree, all the leaves, all the twigs, they get nourished. So similarly, the devotees know that if you satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then everything else is taken care of. Everyone else is happy, everyone else is nourished. So Prabhupada is continuing. Their example is that just as the stomach is a source of energy to all the limbs of the body, God is the original source of all energy manifested in the material and spiritual worlds. Therefore, as supplying food to the stomach is the process to satisfy all limbs of the body. So the demon wants to uproot this source because if the root God were to be checked, the activities of the Lord and devotees would automatically stop. And the demon would be very much satisfied by such a situation in society. Demons are always anxious to have a godless society for their sense gratification. Next, text 6.
Although the Lord was pained by the shaft-like, abusive words of the demon, he bore the pain. But seeing that the earth on the ends of his tusk was frightened, he rose out of the water just as an elephant emerges with its female companion when assailed by an alligator.
So what are these painful shaft-like abusive words? What were these words which were very painful and abusive?
The demon was criticizing the Lord. Different words.
What words were these? What did he say?
He said that devotional services automatically cease to exist.
No, the words that he called the Lord, oh, an amphibious beast.
Amphibious beast.
So when he said that, so the Lord was very pained by the shaft-like abusive words of the demon, and he bore the pain. So when we hear this or read this, what's the thought that comes to our mind?
That Mataji, maybe Lord, I mean, not maybe, Lord knew that eventually this demon was previously his devotee. And now he's saying sharp words like this to him. So maybe that's why he was pained. Can we say that?
Maybe, but actually he knows, the Lord knows they've been cursed to be born as demons. So that is the expected behavior from a demon. So actually, sorry.
We can also understand it like a son calls some abusive words to the father. So father gets hurt. Just like that.
Yeah, and it also tells us that the Lord has feelings and emotions. He is a person. You know, it's not like you can keep saying whatever to the Lord and he's oblivious to it. He feels, he has emotions, he has feelings. He's a person like just like you and me. So, and Vishnu Thakur comments that actually the Lord was pained because of compassion. He saw that, you know, these words are being said to me and my devotees are watching. Brahma and the other demigods were there, they were watching. And these words are being said to me. So how painful it must be for my devotees to hear these words. You know, the Lord is, so the Lord is feeling that pain because of compassion, that these words must be so intolerable for my devotee to hear. And Prabhupada says in the purport that towards the end, on the last line, in order to give protection to his devotee, he's always ready to tolerate insulting words from the atheist. The Lord is willing to undergo anything as long as the devotee is satisfied, as long as the devotee is protected. Analila Mataji, yes.
So if the Lord, you know, he felt pain with that words, how he was addressed. So is that true that when Shishupal spoke ill words to the Lord, we didn't, at least I haven't heard, he felt that pain that time also, or it was a different scenario?
It's not mentioned anywhere, even by the acharyas or even in Bhagavatam. But one thing I can say, I mean, this is just my mental concoction, that, you know, he agreed to forgive 100 abuses by Shishupal. He said, you know, I will forgive 100 abuses, but after that, I will kill him. So that just shows that he's not very happy to hear the abuse. You know, indirectly, we can kind of conclude that, but it is not mentioned by our acharyas or in Bhagavatam.
Thank you.
7.
The demon, who had golden hair on his head and fearful tusks, gave chase to the Lord while he was rising from the water, even as an alligator would chase an elephant. Roaring like thunder, he said, "Are you not ashamed of running away before a challenging adversary? This is nothing reproachable for shameless creatures."
Yeah, we can see that Hiranyaksha is really aching for a fight. So, you know, he wants a fight immediately. And Prabhupada explains that why the Lord is not ready to give him a fight immediately. When the Lord was coming out of the water, taking the earth in his arms to deliver it, the demon derided him with insulting words. But the Lord did not care because he was very conscious of his duty. What was that duty? Protection of his devotee. You know, so the Lord is listening to all these abusive words, but he did not compromise in carrying out his duty to protect a devotee. For a dutiful man, there is nothing to fear. Similarly, those who are powerful have no fear of derision or unkind words from an enemy. The Lord had nothing to fear from anyone, yet he was merciful to his enemy by neglecting him. Although apparently he fled from the challenge, it was just to protect the earth from the calamity that he tolerated Hiranyaksha's deriding words. Next, 8.
The Lord placed the earth within his sight on the surface of the water and transferred to her his own energy in the form of the ability to fluid the water. While the enemies stood looking on, Brahma, the creator of the universe, extolled the Lord, and the other demigods rained flowers on him.
Yeah, so demigods are watching and they see that he has placed the earth back in her orbit. So now they are actually glorifying the Lord by showering flowers on him. So Prabhupada in the purport mentions that how, demoniac people, especially scientists, they talk about gravitational pull, but it is by the potency of the Lord that, all these planets stay in their orbit. It is nothing else. They try different methods to explain, oh, this is the formula, this is what is happening. But that gravitational pull is nothing but Lord's potency. Next, text 9.
Wealth of ornaments, bangles, and beautiful golden armor of his body, chased the Lord from behind with a great face. Lord tolerated his but
I didn't hear anything. Did anybody else hear, or is it some problem with my connection? Prabhu, maybe you can,
Prabhuji, can you?
maybe you can speak again.
Yeah, Prabhuji, can you try again?
my voice is audible now. The woman who
Barely.
had the-
Barely, Prabhu. There's something wrong with your connection. It's not very clear. Maybe somebody else can read this.
The demon who had a wealth of ornaments, bangles, and beautiful golden armor on his body chased the Lord from behind with a great mace. The Lord tolerated his piercing ill words, but in order to reply him, he expressed his terrible anger.
Yeah, so in the purport, Prabhupada says the Lord could have chastised the demon immediately while the demon was deriding the Lord with ill words, but the Lord tolerated him to please the demigods and to show that they should not be afraid of demons while discharging their duties. Therefore, his toleration was displayed mainly to drive away the fears of the demigods, who should know that the Lord is always present to protect them. The demon's derision of the Lord is just like the barking of the dogs. The Lord did not care for it since he was doing his own work in delivering the earth from the midst of the water. Materialistic demons always possess large amounts of gold in various shapes, and they think that a large amount of gold, physical strength, and popularity can save them from the wrath of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, what do they think? Their shelter is what? Their shelter is their opulence. Their shelter is their wealth. They think that's what's going to keep them safe. But actually, that's not the case at all. Lakshmi?
Mataji, I have a question from text 4, purport. It's written that Hiranyaksh is saying that you have done tremendous harm to our community and you have killed our kinsmen in so many ways. So as we know that Lord Vara, as he incarnated, he jumped into the Garbhodaksha ocean to protect the earth. So when did he kill the kinsmen?
Yeah, so this is our acharyas explain that, these pastimes of the Lord, they keep happening again and again. So he's aware that the Lord is going to kill a lot of demons. And anyway, in whichever incarnation he comes, he kills a lot of demons. That's one of his pastimes. So he's referring to that.
Thank you.
Yes. Text 10.
The personality of Godhead said, "Indeed, we are creatures of the jungle, and we are searching after hunting dogs like you. One who is freed from the entanglement of death has no fear from the loose talk in which you are indulging, for you are bound up by the laws of death."
So the Lord is responding in his language. He's calling himself Vanagochara, that yes, I am a creature of the jungle and I'm here to hunt for you. And he also says that all these big things that you're saying, the root is nothing but fear. It is basically stemming from fear. But I don't really have to indulge in these things because I'm not fearful. Next.
Certainly, we have stolen the charge of the inhabitants of Rasatal and have lost all shame. Although bitten by your powerful mace, I shall stay here in the water for some time because, having created enmity with a powerful enemy, I now have no place to go.
So in Prabhupada explains in the purport that demons should have known that God cannot be driven out of any place, for he is all-pervading. He doesn't need a place to live. He is all-pervading. Demons think of their possessions as their property, but actually everything belongs to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And who can take anything at any time he likes. So similarly, like I was saying earlier, that, we may be very proud of our little things, our little achievements, our little possessions, our little skills, little talents, but they are all there by the mercy of the Lord, and they can be taken away at any time. Anytime. It takes him just like a moment to take it away. So this is something to remember, that, and not become unnecessarily proud, because we have to understand that by Krishna's grace, I have all this right now, but it can be taken away at any moment. Any moment. Manohar, Vish Prabhu?
Mataji, I have a question from last verse is that, when the demon said that you are the root of all demigods, and he's the one who got the boon when you rightly discussed that he got the boon from demigod from Brahmaji only. So he know that he get a boon from demigod, and he again saying that you are the root of all demigod. So is it we take like is the will of the Lord or the foolishness of a of this demon? So because he knows that he get the boon from the demigod, and the boar is the root of all demigods. So is the will of the Lord, or we can take it the foolishness of a demon?
It is the foolishness, because even though they realize that Lord Vishnu is behind everything, the Lord is behind everything, still they approach the demigods. So even in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that people who approach the demigods are alpamedhasam. They have less intelligence. And what is the reason for doing that? Because they know that the kind of things I'm asking, the Lord is not going to give it to me. I'm not going to get it from the Lord. So I have this certain desire, which I'm not going to get the Lord to fulfill. So let me go to the demigods, because, if I please them, then they'll be forced to accept my offering and forced to give me that benediction. So this is a demoniac calculation. And that is why they go to Brahma or Shiva. We'll see. Even with Shiva, we see that so many demigods, so many demons like to approach Shiva because he's easily pleased. So what I want, I can easily achieve. But demons don't go to Lord Vishnu, because if they went to Lord Vishnu, they will be converted into devotees. They will not remain demons anymore. So they don't go to Lord Vishnu. Yes.
Thank you so much.
Text 12.
You are supposed to be the commander of many foot soldiers, and how you may take prompt steps to overthrow us. Give up all your foolish talk and wipe out the care of your kid and king by slaying us. One may be proud, yet he does not reserve a seat in an assembly if he fails to fulfill his promised word.
Yeah. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gives a very nice insight. He says that the Lord is filled with prem, because this is his devotee standing in front of him. And then he says that you have accepted the role of a demon as a promise to give me happiness by giving me a good fight. Now act, get up and fight. Don't just keep talking. You appeared in this particular form. You took that curse upon yourself because you wanted to give me service and, give me a good fight. Now don't talk, just give me a good fight. So that's what the Lord is saying. Next, 13.
Sri Maitreya said, the demon, being thus challenged by the personality of Godhead, became angry and agitated, and he trembled in anger like a challenged cobra.
Next.
Hissing indignantly, all the senses shaken by wrath, the demon quickly sprang upon the Lord and dealt him a blow with his powerful mace.
Yeah, so we can see that although he was a pure devotee, he was in Shuddha Sattva because he was in Vaikuntha planet. But because of the curse and the will of the Lord, he has been now completely overtaken by mode of ignorance. He's completely into ignorance now. Next.
The Lord, however, by moving slightly aside, dodged the violent mace blow aimed at his breast by the enemy, just as an accomplished yogi would elude death.
Yes, next.
Are you
16.
My voice is audible.
No, not really. No,
Someone else can read.
I can't hear. Anybody else can hear her? Hear him? No, Prabhu. Not clear. Maybe somebody else can read the verse.
The personality of Godhead now exhibited his anger and rushed to meet the demon, who bit his lip in rage, took up his mace again, and began to repeatedly brandish it about.
Yeah, so now we see that the fight that the Lord desired and his devotee desired to give it to him, that fight has begun. Next.
Then with his mace, the Lord struck the enemy on the right of his brow. But since the demon was expert in fighting, O gentle Vidura, he protected himself by a maneuver of his own mace.
Next.
In this way, the demon Haryaksh and the Lord, the personality of Godhead, struck each other with their huge maces, each enraged and seeking his own victory.
Prabhupada explains that Haryaksh is another name for Hiranyaksha. 19.
There was keen rivalry between the two combatants. Both had sustained injuries on their bodies from the blows of each other pointed maces, and each grew more and more enraged at the smell of blood on his person. In their eagerness to win, they performed maneuvers of various kinds, and their contest looked like an encounter between two forceful bulls for the sake of a cause.
So now we can see that this devotee is giving a spirited fight to the Lord. And the Lord is enjoying the virasa. I mean, there is, one enjoys when the opponent is of same calibers, at least some caliber. If the opponent is really weak, there's no enjoyment in defeating that opponent. But if that opponent has some caliber and then you defeat, then there is real enjoyment. So that's what is happening. 20.
President of Kuru, Brahma, the most independent demigod of the universe, accompanied by his followers, came to see the terrible fight for the sake of the world between the demon and the personality of Godhead, who appeared in the form of a boar.
So Prabhupada explains in the purport, first para, one should not consider the Lord to have the body of an ordinary boar. He can assume any form, and he possesses all such forms eternally. It is from him that all other forms have emanated. This boar form is not to be considered the form of an ordinary hog. His body is actually full of yagya, or worshipful offerings. Yagya sacrifices are offered to Vishnu. Yagya means the body of Vishnu. His body is not material. Therefore, he should not be taken as an ordinary boar. Brahma is described in this verse as Surat. Actually, full independence is exclusive to the Lord himself. But as part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, every living entity has a minute quantity of independence. So actual Swarat is Krishna. And we are mini Swarats. Like we have some little, free will, little independence. But actual independence is only with Krishna. Text 21.
After arriving at the place of combat, Brahma, the leader of thousands of sages and transcendentalists, saw the demon who had attained such unprecedented power that no one could fight with him. Brahma then addressed Narayan, who was assuming the form of a boar for the first time.
Next.
Text 22 and 23. Lord Brahma said, my dear Lord, this demon has proved to be a constant pinprick to the demigods, the Brahmanas, the cows, and innocent persons who are spotless and always dependent upon worshipping your lotus feet. He has become a source of fear by unnecessarily harassing them. Since he has attained a boon from me, he has become a demon, always searching for a proper combatant, wandering all over the universe for this infamous purpose.
Yeah, so now Brahma is offering, his verse to the Lord, and he's telling him about this demon. So Prabhupada says in the purport, the way of the demon is to take power from the demigods and then teach the demigods themselves. This is an instance of a great devotee. There is an instance of a great devotee of Lord Shiva who obtained a boon from Lord Shiva that the head of whomever he touched with his hand would come off its trunk. As soon as the boon was offered to him, the demon wanted to touch the very head of Lord Shiva. That is their way. The devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead do not, however, ask such favor for sense gratification. Even if they are offered liberation, they refuse it. They are happy simply engaging in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. So Prabhupada here is making the distinction very clear between the demon and a devotee. 24.
Lord Brahma continued, My dear Lord, there is no need to play with this serpentine demon, who is always very skilled in conjuring tricks and is arrogant, self-sufficient, and most wicked.
So look, it's so interesting that the Lord wants to play because he really wants to enjoy that virasa. I mean, that was the whole purpose. He doesn't want to kill him in a hurry. He wants to play with him. And here Brahma is saying, please, please kill him. Don't prolong this. So in the purport, Prabhupada says, no one is unhappy when a serpent is killed. It is a practice among village boys to catch a serpent by the tail and play with it for some time and then kill it. Similarly, the Lord could have killed the demon at once, but he played with him in the same way as a child plays with a snake before killing it. Brahma requested, however, that since the demon was more wicked and undesirable than a serpent, there was no need to play with him. It was his wish that he be killed at once without delay. But we'll see that even though Brahma is saying this, the Lord is going to enjoy for some more time. Next, 25.
Brahma continued, My dear Lord, you are infallible. Please kill this sinful demon before the demonic hour arrives. And he presents another formidable approach favorable to him. You can kill him by your internal potency without doubt.
So now Brahma is expressing that why is he making this request of the Lord? Because he's worried that when the twilight comes, when the sun sets, after that the demons become more powerful. So, the Lord, please don't wait for that time to come. Once the demoniac hour arrives, then this demon is going to become even more powerful. So please don't wait till that time. Please kill him. 26.
My Lord, the darkest evening which covers the world is fast approaching. Since you are the soul of soul, kindly kill him and win victory for the demigods.
Next, 27.
The auspicious period known as Abhijit, which is most opportune for victory, commenced at midday and has all but passed. Therefore, in the interest of your friends, please dispose of this formidable foe quickly.
So he's saying that right now it's a very auspicious time. So please don't wait, kill him now. Next, 28.
This demon, luckily for us, has come of his own accord to you. His death ordained by you. Therefore, exhibiting your ways, kill him in the duel and establish the worlds in peace.
Yeah, so what he's saying is that he's come on his own. I mean, you didn't even have to go and search for him. You didn't even have to find where he is. This fool has come on his own looking for you. And so just don't wait now, just kill him and, get it over with. So this is the end of the chapter. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the third canto, 18th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam entitled The Battle Between Lord Boar and the Demon Hiranyaksha. So let's take a break. It's 11:38 now. We can take 15-minute break. Let's come back at 11:55. And then we'll read the last chapter for today, chapter 19. Okay. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay, so let's start with chapter 19. Let's start reading.
Chapter 19, the killing of demon Hiranyaksh. Text 1, translation. Sri Maitreya said, after hearing the words of Brahma, the creator, which were free from all sinful purposes and as sweet as nectar, the Lord heartily laughed and accepted this prayer with a glance laden with love.
Yeah, so Lord has heard these prayers and he's laughed. So in the purport, Prabhupada says, the demon Hiranyaksh became powerful by deriving a boon from Brahma. And after attaining that boon, he created a disturbance because of his sinful intentions. The prayers of Brahma and other demigods are not to be compared to the prayers of the demons. Their purpose is to please the Supreme Lord. Therefore, the Lord smiled and accepted the prayer to kill the demon. Demons who are never interested in praising the Supreme Personality of Godhead because they have no information of him go to the demigods. And in the Bhagavad Gita, this is condemned. Persons who go to the demigods and pray for advancement in sinful activities are considered to be bereft of all intelligence. Demons have lost all intelligence because they do not know what is actually their self-interest. Even if they have information of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they decline to approach him. It is not possible for them to get their desired boons from the Supreme Lord because their purposes are always sinful. So this is something we discussed in the last chapter. Now, text 2.
The Lord who had appeared from the nostril of Brahma sprang and aimed his mace at the chin of his enemy, the Hiranyaksha demon, who was stalking fearlessly before him.
Next.
Struck by the demon's mace, however, the Lord's mace slipped from his hand and looked splendid as it fell down whirling. This was miraculous, for the mace was blazing wonderfully.
Yeah, so we can see that even if the mace is falling from the Lord's hand, even that is so, it is blazing wonderfully. So anything in touch with the Lord is wonderful. Next.
Even though the demon had an excellent opportunity to strike his unarmed foe without obstruction, he respected the law of single combat, therefore kindling the fury of the Supreme Lord.
Yeah, so now he's showing some leeway to the Lord. Okay, your mace has fallen. I'm not going to fight with you. So the Lord is becoming angry at that. So we can see that how the Lord is thoroughly enjoying the rasa. This is what the purpose was, and that's what he's doing. Next, text 5.
As the Lord's mace fell to the ground and a cry of alarm arose from the witnessing crowd of gods and rishis, the personality of Godhead acknowledged the demon's love of righteousness and therefore invoked his Sudarshan discus.
Yeah, so we see the Lord always reacts like this, even in Krishna Leela, when he's dancing on top of Kalia, and when, the Brajbasis become really fearful and start crying, then Krishna decides that, okay, now this is the time to subdue Kalia. Not anymore, no more dancing, no more playing. So here also we see that the personality of Godhead, he heard these cries of the witnessing crowd, and he decides, okay, now let me pull out the Sudarshan chakra. Next.
Text 6. As the discus began to revolve in the Lord's hands, and the Lord contended at close quarters with the chief of his Vaikuntha attendants, who had been born as Hiranyaksh, a wild son of Diti, there issued from every direction strange expressions uttered by those who were witnessing from airplanes. They had no knowledge of the Lord's reality, and they cried, "May victory attend you! Pray dispatch him! Play no more with him."
So there are all kind of people witnessing this, people who did not, some of them did not really understand his power. So, they are different kind of people are saying different things. So they are thinking that, let's wish him well, because maybe by our wishes, some auspicious result will come out of it. Next. Who's reading?
When the demon saw when the demon saw the personality of Godhead, who had eyes just like lotus petal, standing in position before him, armed with his Sudarshana discus, his sense were overpowered by indignation. He began to hiss like a serpent, and his bit his lip in great resentment.
Next.
The demon who had fearful tusks stared at the personality of Godhead as though he burned him. Springing into the air, he aimed his mace at the Lord, exclaiming the same time, "You are slain."
Next.
O saintly Vidura, while his enemy looked on, the Lord in his boar form, the enjoyer of all sacrificial offerings, playfully knocked down the mace with his left foot, even as it came upon him with the force of a tempest.
So here the word is used playfully. So we can see that the Lord is enjoying this pastime. Text 10.
The Lord then said, "Take up your weapon and try again, eager as you are to conquer me." Challenged in these words, the demon aimed his mace at the Lord and once more loudly roared.
Next.
When the
When the-
Lord saw the
Yeah, go
text
ahead.
11, when the Lord saw the mace flying toward him, he stood firmly where he was and caught it with the same ease as Garur, the king of birds, would seize a serpent.
Next.
His valor frustrated, the great demon felt humiliated and was put out of countenance. He was reluctant to take back the mace when it was offered by the personality of God.
Yeah. So the Lord is offering that, okay, take your mace back. And he's reluctant. So now he does not take the mace back. What does he do? He now took a trident, which was as rapacious as a flaming fire, and hurled it against the Lord, the enjoyer of all sacrifices, even as one would use the penance for a malevolent purpose against a holy Brahmana. So this, this analogy is given this to show that he had malicious intentions, to show the malicious intentions of the demon as he hurled the trident towards the Lord. Next.
Hurled by the mighty demon with all his strength, the flying trident shone brightly in the sky. The personality of Godhead, however, tore it to pieces with his discus Sudarshana, which had a sharp-edged rim, even as Indra cut off a wing of Garuda.
So now, Prabhupada has given a purport to this, so let's read the entire purport. Maybe somebody can read it.
The context of the reference given herein regarding Garuda and Indra is this. Once upon a time, Garuda, the carrier of the Lord, snatched away a nectar pot from the hands of the demigods in heaven in order to liberate his mother, Vinata, from the clutches of his stepmother, Kadru, the mother of the serpents. On learning of this, Indra, the king of heaven, hurled his thunderbolt against Garuda. With the view of respect the infallibility of Indra's weapon, Garuda, though otherwise invincible, being the Lord's own mount, dropped one of his wings, which was shattered to pieces by the thunderbolt. The inhabitants of higher planets are so sensible that even in the process of fighting they observe the preliminary rules and regulations of gentleness. In this case, Garuda wanted to show respect for Indra, since he knew that Indra's weapon must destroy something. He offered his wing.
So Prabhupada is giving an explanation of this, this comparison that has been made in the shloka. Next, 15.
The demon was enraged when his trident was cut to pieces by the discus of the personality of Godhead. He therefore advanced towards the Lord and, roaring aloud, struck his hard fist against the Lord's broad chest, which bore the mark of Srivatsa. Then he went out of sight.
So this shloka indicates that the demon disappeared from there. So he's using his illusory powers to do so. And it is also an indication, the Acharyas point out that although not openly mentioned, clearly mentioned in Bhagavatam, it is also an indication that the fight went on beyond twilight, because now he started exercising his mystic powers. So the Lord is enjoying the rasa so much that, he did not pay much heed to what Brahma had told him, that once the twilight passes, the demon is going to gather more strength. So please kill him before that. Next.
Hit in this manner by the demon, O Vidura, the Lord who had appeared as the first boar did not feel the least quaking in any part of his body, and any more than an elephant would when struck with a wreath of flowers.
So Prabhupada gives a purport. He says that as previously explained, the demon was originally a servitor of the Lord in Vaikuntha, but somehow or other he fell as a demon. His fight with the Supreme Lord was meant for his liberation. The Lord enjoyed the striking of his transcendental body, just like a fully grown-up father fighting with his child. Sometimes a father takes pleasure in having a mock fight with a small child. Similarly, the Lord felt Hiranyaksha striking on his body to be like flowers offered for worship. In other words, the Lord desired to fight in order to enjoy his transcendental bliss. Therefore, he enjoyed the attack. So where else do we read about Lord enjoying the attack and attack feeling like flowers, offering of flowers to him? Where else do we read it?
When he fights Hiranyakashipu.
Sorry?
Bhishma Pitama?
Yeah, when he was fighting with Bhishma. So the arrows that struck him, the Lord actually enjoyed that. He felt like they were like flowers. Because there also he was tasting this rasa with his devotee. And that is another example of how a devotee agrees to fight with the Lord. Bhishma is also a devotee, a great devotee of the Lord. And he decided to fight against the Lord to give him that rasa of fighting. Next, 17.
The demon, however, employed many conjuring tricks against the personality of Godhead, who's the Lord of Yogmaya. At the sight of this, the people were filled with alarm and thought that the dissolution of the universe was near.
Yeah, so the demon started performing a lot of Maya tricks, and the people who were watching this, they started getting worried. They thought, oh, maybe if the Lord loses, or if the demon is victorious, what's going to happen? This whole universe is going to be destroyed. So Prabhupada says the fighting enjoyment of the Supreme Lord with his devotee who had been converted into a demon appeared severe enough to bring about the dissolution of the universe. This is the greatness of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Even the wavering of his little finger appears to be great and very dangerous movement in the eyes of the inhabitants of the universe. Like little things he does, so people think, oh, what has happened? So everything is so great about the Supreme Lord. 18.
Text 18. Fierce winds began to blow from all directions, spreading darkness occasioned by dust and hail storms. Stones came in volleys from every corner as if thrown by machine guns.
Yeah, so now this whole, this demon has taken this battle to another level. This is now all his illusory powers and, he's appearing, disappearing. He's doing all these kind of things now. Next.
The luminaries in outer space disappeared due to the skies being overcast with masses of clouds, which were accompanied by lightning and thunder. The sky rained pus, hair, blood, stool, urine, and bones.
Next.
O sinless Vidura, mountains discharged weapons of various kinds, and naked demoness, armed with tridents, appeared with their hair hanging loose.
Next.
Cruel and savage slogans were uttered by a host of ruffian yakshas and rakshasas, who all either marched on foot or rode on horses, elephants, or chariots.
Next.
The Lord, the personal enjoyer of all sacrifices, now discharged his beloved Sudarshana, which was capable of dispersing the magical force displayed by the demon.
Okay, so Prabhupada comments that even famous yogis and demons can sometimes enact very magical feats by their mystic power. But in the presence of the Sudarshan Chakra, when it is let loose by the Lord, all such magical jugglery is dispersed. And then he gives the example of Amrish Maharaj and Durvasa Muni. And then towards the end, he says that in Bhagavad Gita, the Lord confirms that he is the beneficiary and enjoyer of all sacrifices, penances, and austerities. Lord is the enjoyer of three kinds of yagya. As further described in Bhagavad Gita, there are sacrifices of goods, sacrifices of meditation, and sacrifices of philosophical speculation. Those on the path of Gyan, Yoga, Karma, all have to come in the end to the Supreme Lord because Vasudeva Sarvamiti. The Supreme Lord is the ultimate enjoyer of everything. That is the perfection of all sacrifice. That whichever path may be there, but ultimately for any kind of success, one has to come to the Supreme Lord. There has to be some kind of yoga. Next, 23.
At that very moment, a shudder suddenly ran through the heart of Diti, the mother of Hiranyaksha. She recalled the words of her husband Kashyapa, and blood flowed from her breasts.
So what were these words of Kashyapa that she recalled? What were these words?
That your son will be
Her
killed.
sons will be killed by the Supreme Personality of God.
Yeah, they'll be ferocious and they'll be killed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Prabhupada in his purport says, at Hiranyaksha's last moment, his mother Diti remembered what her husband had said. Although her sons would be demons, they would have the advantage of being killed by the personality of Godhead himself. She remembered this incident by the grace of the Lord, and her breast flowed blood instead of milk. So this in itself is a very inauspicious sign. So Prabhupada mentions that. Next, text 24.
When the demon saw his magic forces dispelled, he once again came into the presence of the personality of Godhead, Keshava, and, full of rage, tried to embrace him within his arms to crush him. But to his great amazement, he found the Lord standing outside the circle of his arms.
Yeah, so the demon, Prabhupada says, the demon's attempt to measure the Supreme Personality of Godhead is significant. The demon wanted to embrace him with his arms, thinking that with his limited arms, he could capture the absolute by material power. But is it possible to capture Krishna with material power? How can he be captured?
With love and devotion.
Yeah, only by love and devotion. And we see a proof of this where?
Damodar Leela, Yashoda
Yes,
Maya.
we see a proof of this, that she is able to catch him because of her love and devotion. And similarly, we also see when Kalyavan is chasing Krishna, trying to catch him, but he was not able to catch him, even though he was very powerful, running very fast. But Krishna cannot be caught by, any other means except for love and devotion. And Prabhupada towards the end says, the Supreme Lord Keshava, or the personality of Godhead Krishna, is not bound by any measurement of our calculation. He can remain with his devotee in any suitable form, yet he's unapproachable by any amount of demoniac activities. That only by devotion can he be approached. Only by devotion can he be captured, by no other means. 25.
The demon now began to strike the Lord with his hard fists, but Lord Adhokshaja slapped him in the root of the ear, even as Indra, the lord of the Maruts, hit the demon Rita.
So Prabhupada explains that Lord is explained here to be Adhokshaja, beyond the reach of all material calculation. Akshaja means the measurement of our senses, and Adhokshaja means which is beyond the measurement of our senses. So the demon is not really understanding that this is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I mean, he's trying all kind of things. He tried to kill him with a mace, then with a trident, and then he tried to capture him with his arms. And then now he's, starting to hit the Lord with his hard fist, thinking that he would be able to capture him. He would be able to vanquish him. But he does not realize that that's not possible. Text 26.
Though struck indifferently by the Lord, the conqueror of all, the demon's body began to wheel. His eyeballs bulged out of their sockets, his arms and legs broken, and the hair on his head scattered. He fell down dead. like a gigantic tree uprooted by the wind.
So Prabhupada says in his purport that it does not take even a moment for the Lord to kill any powerful demon, including Hiranyaksha. So that shows that, so he took so much time to kill Hiranyaksha because he did not want to kill him then. He wanted to enjoy that pastime. The Lord could have killed him long before, but he allowed the demon to display his full extent of his magical feats. One may know that by magical feats, by scientific advancement of knowledge, or by material power, one cannot become equal to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. His one signal is sufficient to destroy all our attempts. Wow, such a wonderful statement. His one signal is sufficient to destroy all our attempts. Text 27.
Aja, Brahma, and others arrived on the spot to see the fearfully touched demon lying on the ground, biting his lip. The glow of his face was yet unfaded, and Brahma admiringly said, "Oh, who could meet such blessed death?"
So Prabhupada says that although the demon was dead, his bodily luster was unfaded. Why? Why would that luster be unfaded?
Touched by the Lord.
Because he was killed by the Lord. So he continues, but here, although Hiranyaksha lay dead, his bodily luster was unfaded because the Lord, the Supreme Spirit, was touching his body. One's bodily luster remains fresh only as long as the spirit soul is present. Although the demon soul had departed his body, the Supreme Spirit touched the body, and therefore his bodily luster did not fade. And then he continues, one who sees the Supreme Personality of Godhead when he quits his body is certainly very fortunate. And therefore personalities like Brahma and the other demigods eulogize the death of the demon. And this was also the desire of Jai and Vijay, that whichever state we may be in, whichever species we may be in, whichever condition we may be in, we should not forget you. Don't let us forget you. And the Lord is there with them at their last moment so that they will not forget him. So that's the reciprocation of the Lord with his devotee. 28.
Brahma continued. He was struck by a forefoot of the Lord, whom yogis seeking freedom from their unreal material bodies meditate upon his in seclusion in mystic trance. While gazing on his countenance, this crest jewel of Diti's son has cast off his mortal oil.
Yeah, so Prabhupada mentions in the purport that real yoga aims at ridding one of the material body. Yoga practice is not intended to keep the body fit and young. And then further on, he says, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, one who concentrates his mind constantly in meditation upon the personality of Godhead in one of his many varieties of forms is a first-class yogi. And he can very easily attain trance simply by meditating upon the form of the Lord. If one is able to continue such meditation on the Lord's form at the time of his death, one is liberated from this mortal body and is transferred to the kingdom of God. This opportunity was given to the demon by the Lord, and therefore Brahma and other demigods were astonished. In other words, the perfection of yoga practice can be attained by a demon also if he is simply kicked by the Lord. Next, 29.
These two personal assistants of the Supreme Lord, having been cursed, have been destined to take birth in demoniac families. After a few such births, they will return to their own positions.
30.
The demigods address the Lord, all obeisances unto you. You are the enjoyer of all sacrifices, and you have assumed the form of a boar in pure goodness for the purpose of maintaining the world. Fortunately for us, this demon, who was a torment to the worlds, has been slain by you, and we too, O Lord, are now at ease in devotion to your lotus feet.
Yeah, so now they are addressing the Lord and paying him obeisances. So Prabhupada says the sacrifices which are recommended in the Vedas are meant to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In ignorance only, people try to satisfy many other agents, but the real purpose of life is to satisfy the Supreme Lord, Vishnu. Then further on, he says, purified life is meant to please the Lord, and all sacrifices performed in purified life are called Krishna consciousness, because they are meant, the intent is to please the Lord. It becomes bhakti when the intent is there to please the Lord. Our activities may be pleasing to the Lord without the intent. We may not really be intending to please the Lord, but still the Lord may be pleased. But it is not bhakti till there is an intent to please the Lord. We read about this in the Paribhas Sutra of NOD, which is Anyabhilashita Shunyam. And their Anukulen means favorably disposed with the intent to please the Lord. Next, 31.
Sri Maitreya continued. After thus killing the most formidable demon, Hiranyaksh, the Supreme Lord Hari, the origin of the boar species, returned in his own abode, where there is always an uninterrupted festival. The Lord was praised by all the demigods, headed by Brahma.
Yeah, so Prabhupada will explain that actually all the incarnations of the Lord have their own abode. So Lord Vara returned back to his own abode. He says, in this situation, the Lord assumed the shape of a boar to kill the demon Hiranyaksha and pick up the earth from the Garbha ocean. Thus he became Adi Shukara, the original boar. In the material world, a boar or pig is considered most abominable, but the Adi Shukara, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, was not treated as an ordinary boar. Even Lord Brahma and other demigods praised the Lord's form as boar. This was confirms a statement in Bhagavad Gita that Lord appears as he is from his transcendental abode for the sake of killing the miscreants and saving the devotees. By killing the demon Hiranyaksha, he fulfilled his promise. The statement that the Lord returned to his own abode indicates that he has his own particular transcendental residence. Okay. Next, 32.
Maitreya continued, my dear Vidura, I have explained to you the personality of God is coming down as the first boar incarnation and killing in a great fight of a demon of unprecedented prowess as if he were just a plaything. This has been narrated by me as I heard it from my predecessor, spiritual master.
Yeah, so this is a very important thing to note. Maitreya is saying that I'm narrating this as I've heard from my predecessor, spiritual master. Prabhupada comments on this in his purport. He says, here the sage Maitreya admits that he explained the incident of the killing of Hiranyaksha by the Supreme Personality of Godhead as a straight narration. He did not manufacture anything or add interpretation, but explained whatever he had heard from his spiritual master. Thus, he accepted as bona fide the system of parampara, or receiving the transcendental message in disciplic succession. Unless received by this bona fide process of hearing from a spiritual master, the statement of an acharya or preceptor cannot be valid. So this is actually, we can see this is his mood and mission to present things as it is. And in the introduction of Bhagavad Gita also, he says that the reason I wrote Bhagavad Gita, because there were already 700 editions existing, the reason I wrote it, because nobody had presented what Krishna wanted to say as it is. So this was Prabhupada's mission, to actually present what was said as it is. So coming in his line, this is also our responsibility to present things as it is, as we have heard, without manufacturing, without adding, without subtracting, to give it out as it is to whoever we are passing this knowledge to. Next, 33.
Shri Sud Goswami continued, my dear Brahmana, Shata, Vidura, the great devotee of the Lord, achieved transcendental bliss by hearing the narration of the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead from the authoritative source of the sage Kausharva Maitreya, and he was very pleased.
Prabhupada says in his purport that if anyone wants to derive transcendental pleasure by hearing the pastimes of the Lord, he must hear from the authoritative source, as explained here. Maitreya heard the narration from his bona fide spiritual master, and Vidura also heard from Maitreya. One becomes an authority simply by presenting whatever he has heard from his spiritual master, and one who does not accept a bona fide spiritual master cannot be an authority. So here Prabhupada is talking about the responsibility that rests on the shoulder of a person who has accepted a bona fide spiritual master. to present the things as it is, as they have come in the parampara to present them as it is. And then he gives warning about how hearing from non-devotees is actually poisonous. Just like when serpent is fed milk, that milk becomes poisonous. So similarly, even though transcendental text, if presented by non-devotees, one should not really hear that. And he quotes from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Mayavad Bhasha Shunile Haya Sarvanash, that if somebody hears from a Mayavadi or a non-devotee, then that kind of hearing is going to be detrimental for one's spiritual life. And at the last few lines of the purport, Prabhupada says, Suta Goswami was speaking to the sages headed by Shaunaka, and therefore he addressed them in this verse as Dvijas, twice born. The sages assembled in Naimisharanya, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam from Suta Goswami, were all Brahmanas. But to acquire the qualification of Brahmana is not everything. Merely to be twice born is not perfection. Perfection is attained when one hears the pastime and activities of the Lord from a bona fide source. We may be very pure, very clean, doing everything properly. But perfection is attained only when one hears about the Lord from an authority. Shravanam. Shravanam is a starting point. 34, text.
What to speak of hearing the pastimes of the Lord, whose chest is marked with Shrivats? People may take transcendental pleasure, even in hearing, of the works and deeds of the devotees, whose fame is immortal.
Yeah, so we see Bhagavatam is full of descriptions of the Lord and his devotees. And why do we need to hear about the devotees? Because of their close connection, close relationship with the Lord. They are closely connected. So Prabhupada says, the Mahabharata, for example, the history of the Pandavas and their activities is sacred because the Pandavas had a direct relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, when we hear Mahabharata, we hear extended accounts of Pandava suffering, different things happening. But why is it okay to hear? Why should one hear? Because they are in close relationship with the Lord. Everything in their life will ultimately revolve around the Lord. So by hearing about them, we are indirectly hearing about the Lord because they are in close relationship. 35.
The personality of God had delivered the king of the elephants, who was attacked by an alligator and who meditated upon the lotus feet of the Lord. At that time, the female elephants who accompanied him were crying, and the Lord saved them from the impending danger.
Okay, so suddenly, why has he started speaking about Gajendra? This is the pastime of Gajendra, which we'll read about in Canto 8. Why suddenly, he would start talking about this.
I guess, Mataji, to emphasize the intensity of the intense prayers made by a devotee.
Yeah, yes. What else? Also, to indicate that somehow or other, if we get some devotion, we'll be safe. Whether one is born in an animal species, one is born as a demigod. What is really the key here is to somehow or other get connected to Krishna. So Prabhupada says that the example of the elephant in danger who was saved by the Supreme Lord is especially cited here because even if one is an animal, he can approach the personality of God in devotional service. Whereas even a demigod cannot approach the Supreme Person unless he is a devotee. Yeah. So this is something to remember, that whichever way, however, if we are in touch with the Lord, then our success is assured. That is the key, how to come in touch with Krishna. Text 36.
What grateful soul is there who would not render his loving service to such a great master as the personality of Godhead? The Lord can be easily pleased by spotless devotees who resort exclusively to him for protection, though the unrighteous man finds it difficult to propitiate him.
Yeah, so a devotee, a spotless devotee understands that there is no other shelter. Only shelter is Krishna. We may, be in illusion that my friends, my family members, people around me, my money, my, strength, my power, my fame, these are the things which are going to protect me. But actually, a spotless devotee realizes that there is no other shelter. It is only Krishna who's our shelter. Prabhupada in his purport says, every living entity, especially persons in the human race, must feel grateful for the benedictions offered by the grace of the Supreme Lord. So, how many times do we really think about the benedictions that have been offered to us by the Supreme Lord? I'm just asking, how many times do we really do that? And how many times do we crib about things not going right in our lives? So, yes, Prabhu. Rastraman Prabhu, you wanted to say something?
Mataji, what I find in my life, during the Bhagavatam, hearing Bhagavatam class, whenever I sit there and hear from the devotees, then I feel that this is the greatest benediction I'm receiving. And to talk of the problems in life, like what the second question was, every time I feel that when I leave the class and when I'm out in the world, in the society doing my jobs and all other deeds, then I feel that yes, I'm surrounded by Maya and great things, and I need to come out of this. But how? I think I should devote more and more time in hearing and reading and chanting. That's it.
Very nice thought. So actually, if we start paying attention to our lives, we tend to take what is being given to us as for granted, and we complain about things we don't have, or the situations we don't have. So very good exercise to always remember that we have much to be grateful for. And Krishna has been very, very kind to us. Our lives could have been so much worse, but he has been very, very kind to us. So there's this practice that, every day before you go to sleep, start writing 10 thank you sentences to Krishna, 10 things that you were thankful for that day. There was food on my table, my body is working, many other things. I have 2 kidneys, I have a liver, I have a heart, I have 2 legs, I have 2 arms, so many things. I have a brain. Many people don't have that luxury, to be thankful for everything. And when we start making this a practice, then we realize that it's Krishna's magic in our lives. And then we complain a lot less, because we start realizing that, he has been more kind than I deserve. So it's a very good practice to have. If you already don't do this, then I would really encourage that. Start writing 10 thank you sentences every day before you go to sleep. And those 10 thank you sentences should be what you're thankful for in that particular day. And then you realize that how every day is a benediction, how every day you can see his mercy in some form or another. So Prabhupada says that anyone, therefore, with a simple heart of gratefulness must be Krishna conscious and offer devotional service to the Lord. And then he continues, ungrateful persons are those who do not understand how much benefit they are deriving by the arrangement of the Lord. Next, 37.
Mataji, may I ask a question?
Yes, please.
Regarding your advice that we should always be thankful to God for various things we have received. But Mataji, I think what I have gathered from my life, it's a human nature. Instead of focusing over the benefits or benedictions from the Lord, we are more focused over the things we are lacking in. At least I am. At least I am.
It is the default setting we have. So when we become devotees, we need to change that default setting. Once we get habitual of actually seeing Krishna's mercy in our lives, when things go awry, then even then we will be able to appreciate that as Krishna's plan, his mercy. Because if you're not aware of things going right, and we are not thankful for that, then how are we going to be appreciative of things when there is suffering? When there is apparent suffering, how are we going to be thankful at that time? So we have to kind of hone our vision in such a way that we are able to see Krishna's mercy in every situation in our lives. Okay. 37.
Thank you, Mataji.
O Brahmanas, anyone who hears, chants, or takes pleasure in the wonderful narration of the killing of the Hiranyaksha demon by the Lord, who appeared as the first boar in order to deliver the world, is at once relieved of the results of sinful activities, even the killing of a Brahmana.
Yeah, so Prabhupada says that anyone who hears about the pastimes of the Lord associates with the Lord directly, and one who associates directly with the Lord is certainly freed from unskillful activities, even to the extent of the killing of Brahmana, which is considered the most sinful activity in the material world. One should be very eager to hear about the activities of the Lord from the bona fide source, the pure devotee. If one simply gives oral reception to the narration and accepts the glories of the Lord, then he is qualified. And then at the end, he says, we have to hear from Sutta Goswami or Maitreya, who actually present the narrations as they are, and only then we can relish the pastimes of the Lord. Otherwise, the effects on the neophyte audience will be poisonous. That here he's again warning about hearing from an authoritative source, hearing from a bona fide source. Last verse of this particular chapter and this section.
This most sacred narrative confers extraordinary merit, wealth, fame, longevity, and all the object of one's desire. On the field of battle, it promotes the strength of one's vital organs and organs of action. One who listens to it at the last moment of his life is transferred to the supreme abode of the Lord. Oh dear Shaunak.
So who's speaking this verse? Who's speaking?
Sutta Goswami.
Sutta Goswami. Yes. So this is the Shruti Fal. So I'm asking you, did you take pleasure in the wonderful narration of the killing of the Hiranyaksha? Did you all do that? Yes. Okay. So this is the Shruti Fal you're going to get. Extraordinary merit, wealth, fame, longevity, and all the objects of one's desire. When a devotee hears the first four, the heart starts sinking that, oh, I don't really want wealth, fame, longevity. And then the last one, objects of one's desire. Now, this is something that a devotee likes, that, okay, I can get the object of my desire. And my desire is to serve the lotus feet of Krishna and his devotees. So Prabhupada says, devotees are generally attracted by the narratives of the pastime of the Lord, and even though they do not prosecute austerities or meditation, this very process of hearing attentively about the pastimes of the Lord will endow them with innumerable benefits, such as wealth, fame, longevity, and other desirable aims of life. If one continues to hear Srimad Bhagavatam, which is full of narratives of the pastime of the Lord, at the end of his life, one is sure to be transferred to the eternal transcendental abode of the Lord. Thus, hearers are benefited both ultimately and for as long as they are in the material world. That is the supreme sublime result of engaging in devotional service. It's a win-win thing. Whether you are in the material world, you'll be happy, you'll get your desired, whatever you desire. And at the end, one will be transferred to the supreme abode of the Lord. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 3rd canto, 19th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Killing of the Demon Hiranyaksha. So anybody has any comment before we end or question? Okay. Yes, Anandina Mataji.
Here we see when the Jaya Vijay, they were cursed. At least it was not there. I didn't come across that. We know that they had to take multiple births as opponent to the Supreme Lord. Where does that comes? Why did they had to take multiple births? Wasn't that one birth was enough?
I'll answer this question in two ways. First, the acharyas mentioned that they were given an option that you can come as in 7 births as devotees or 3 births as demons. So they were so eager to return back that they said 3 births as demons. That's what we want. We don't want 7 births as devotees away from the Lord. So that was one thing. That's why that's the option they chose. And second, if you notice, these demons will be repeatedly killed by the Lord. Vara and Nrsingadev and then Lord Ram, but they don't get liberation in those births. They still come back. It's in the last birth when they'll be killed by Krishna himself that they get liberated. So that is a special power of Krishna, that whoever is killed by Krishna is sure to get liberation. But that's not the case with all other incarnations of the Lord. They may or may not be liberated. So they took many births so that they can finally get liberated by Krishna, by killing by Krishna. So now that they have appeared, this is happening in Chakshusha Manvanta. This has happened. So now they have appeared. So Krishna is yet to appear. So they will come back in many births till the time they are killed by Krishna and they get final liberation.
Thank you.
Arvind Charan Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Mataji, the devotee fights with the Lord, which it includes in which rasa?
Veer Rasa.
Veer rasa, okay.
Priya Satyabhama.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Half of my question is answered already when you answered Anand Leela Mataji's question. The other half I'm curious to know that where does this come that they were given a choice of 7 birds and 3 birds, and it comes one more thing also comes, Mataji, that they came as Jagai Madai in Chaitanya Leela because they wanted to serve the Lord in devotee rasa as well. So if you could just explain a little bit about this.
So this is mentioned by one of our acharyas. Now I'm forgetting whether it's Jiva Goswami or somebody else. I don't exactly remember who, but it's explained by the acharyas. And this second one about Jagai Madhai, they were liberated after being killed by Krishna. They had gone back. But when they came to know that the Lord is appearing as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, so they wanted to participate in that Leela. And that's why they voluntarily chose to come. Just to show the incredible mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, how by his mercy he even delivers the demons or people of demoniac mentality. That Jagai Madhai pastime is actually a very hope-giving pastime for all of us, that if they can be delivered, then we also have some hope. So to give that hope, to show the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his incredible mercy, they appeared as Jagai Madhai to just facilitate that pastime of the Lord. Is that okay?
Yes, thank you so much, Mataji. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all. And we have finished before time. And since we have finished our first unit, we won't be having a class on 15th of August. So it's a free day for you. And I know 17th is your CBA, so you get full day to prepare for your CBA. All the best for your exam. Now, God willing, we will see each other on Saturday, next Saturday, 10 o'clock. Hare Krishna, everyone. Thank you so much. Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
So much, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji.